Rambam. Maimonides' teachings, the laws of Toin Vinitan, the laws of plaintiff and defendant. We continue the very specific laws. There's a halacha in the Torah that someone who has been working a field for 3 years, they have what we call a chazaka, an established claim of ownership, because they've worked the field and there was no the plaintiff who's the claims to be the owner says, hey, it's my land, right? So if he didn't make a claim within the 3 years, so then the person who's there for 3 years has his claim of ownership. That's the general law. Now we're talking about obviously an instance where there is no bill of sale, right? And all there is proof that the person has been there for 3 years, tilling the soil, working the land, having benefit from the produce. So in chapter 13, he says over here, the following individuals are not given the privilege of establishing a claim of ownership, even though they have benefited from the property for 3 years. A craftsman. So let's say a builder, right? A general contractor, right? The fact that he's building a building somewhere and it took him 3 years is not a proof that he owns the land there, right? Or a sharecropper. Sharecropper is someone who is hired by the owner of the land, right? That you work the land and we make an agreement. 30% the sharecropper gets, 50%, whatever the agreement is, right? So that person also, the fact that he was there 3 years does not establish a claim of ownership or a guardian over the land. Partners, a husband with regard to property belonging to his wife, or a wife with regard to property belonging to her husband, or a son with regard to property belonging to his father, and a father with regard to property belonging to his son. All of those are not a proof that you were there for 3 years, right? And you have witnesses that you were there for 3 years, that this land belongs to you. The rationale is that all of these instances, the owners will not be irritated by the other's use of property. The point over here is that, if I know that someone is on my property using it, right? Let's say, I've got lots of property and here's a piece of property. I'm not living there. I'm not using it. I don't even have a sharecropper or anybody who is, gonna work the field for whatever reason. I'm leaving it. But if someone is going down there and taking advantage of it and reaping the benefit from it, that's going to irritate me, and therefore I'm going to make a claim against that. Right? But in all of these instances, you wouldn't make a claim because you hired the sharecropper. You hired the guy to build the building. Took him a long time, but whatever. So I would never make a claim against any of these individuals, a father over a son over a father. So therefore, the fact that they have benefited from it does not serve as a proof of ownership, even though the owner did not protest, right? That's key. When it's someone, if I know that someone is in my field year after year, stealing the produce from my field, yeah, he's working the land or whatever, but he's, I didn't give him permission. At one point, I'm going to make a claim against it. I'm going to protest. in court, or protest even to even let's say I'm not close by. Oh, it's a field that's far away. So I'm going to protest to two people. I'm going to take two witnesses and say I'm making a protest here that I want to make sure that this person doesn't make a claim afterwards that it's theirs because they've been there for the last 3 years. So in all of these instances, a person wouldn't make that protest. He said the property should be returned to the owner, provided that they bring proof that this land was known to belong to them. Now, they need to bring proof, right? So maybe they have a documentation that, they, excuse me, they need documentation that or witnesses that the land did belong to them at one point, right? Now, of course, they could have sold it. They could have given it to the person and so on and so forth, right? And that they take a shvus hesis, they take a rabbinic oath, they did not sell or give away the land, as we've explained, right? Because just because you owned it at one point doesn't mean you own it today, right? And again, remember, there's no other documentation here, and that's why you have to take the oath to confirm that not only as based on the documentation or the witnesses that this land did belong to you, but indeed you didn't give it away or sell it to somebody and it still belongs to you. Similarly, exilarchs of that period that are like leaders of a community, a robber, a non-Jew cannot establish claim of ownership because they benefited from property. The rationale is that these are men of force, right? So they can't, the fact that we're there for 3 years or more, it doesn't prove anything. Similarly, a deaf mute or mentally or emotionally unstable person and a minor cannot establish a claim of ownership through the benefiting from property. The rationale is they do not have a claim on which a property could be awarded to them. Instead, the property should be returned to its owners. So such people, right, some of the mentally unstable cannot make an acquisition. So, so they can't acquire it through the right of establishment claim of ownership. Conversely, a person manifests ownership over a property for 3 years. The fact that he benefited from the property is not considered proof of ownership of these individuals. Okay, what is meant by the statement that they are not given the privilege of establishing a claim of ownership over property? So Ruvain, so he gives an example. Ruvain benefited from a field originally belonging to Shimon for a sufficient. Oh boy. I have like a little, feather in the back of my throat that's tickling. That's tickling, that's what it feels like. Yeah. So, so is there established that it belonged to Shimon, right, originally, for a sufficient number of years to establish a claim of ownership? He claims that he purchased the land. Shimon brought witnesses to testify that the property was known to belong to him. Similarly, he brought witnesses who testified Reuven was known to be his partner, his sharecropper, or a guardian, one of them, right? So not only does he have witnesses that it did belong to him, but that they're partners or he's his sharecropper, right? Or a guardian of the land, right? For this reason, he claims that he did not protest. So that's why he left it for 3 years with no protest, right? In a regular case, if it was someone who was really a thief going into your land, right? Because someone saw that, like a couple of years, there's fruit-bearing trees over here, and no one took the fruit for a couple of years. So you go and say, okay, hey, must be free. And right. So you would know about that at a certain point in time within 3 years. We give 3 years that you should know about that, and you're going to protest, right? But to these people, you wouldn't protest because he's your guardian or he's your sharecropper, right? That's why I didn't protest. The field then is returned to Shimon, provided that he takes a shvus hesses, that he did not sell or give the property to Reuven. Similar laws apply with regards to other mentioned above. Now, of course, if Reuven had a bill of sale, then it was sold to him, that Shimon had that bill of sale, right? Then it wouldn't go back to Reuven. We're talking about the Derizit, right? Different laws applies, however, if Shimon does not bring proof that Reuven was a partner or a sharecropper, but instead Reuven made his admission on his own initiative, saying, yes, he was my partner and he sold me the property. Since he benefited from the land from a number of years long enough to establish a claim of ownership, and he could have said that he was never my partner, his word is accepted for the word of like the word of other persons. So he could have said that we were never partners, right? There's no proof over here. It's the fact that he would have established the claim on the land. The fact that he said, yeah, we were partners, but he sold it to me because he wasn't interested in the land anymore. He sold it to me. Then in such an instance, it would belong to Shimon. Okay, I got to stop here. Amazing. Baruch Hashem.
Thank you, Rabbi.
God bless you all.